Welcome to Vinnie Politan Investigates. I'm Julia Janae, filling in for Vinnie tonight. Our investigation focuses on two subjects. The first is Donna Adelson. She's a Florida grandmother who is married to a well-known Miami dentist. The second is Katherine Magbanua, a former shot girl with Latin King connections who's currently sentenced to life behind bars. On the surface, the two may seem to have no connection, but prosecutors say their lives are very much intertwined. Here's the story. FSU law professor and father of two, Dan Markel, was going through a bitter custody battle with his ex-wife, Wendy Adelson, when he was gunned down in his Tallahassee driveway in July of 2014 by these two men, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera. Investigators tried to piece together why a Latin King gang member and his friend would kill Dan Markel. And as they worked their way through the evidence, they found a link. Sigfredo Garcia's longtime girlfriend and the mother of his children, Katherine Magbanua. Katherine had also dated a Ferrari-driving periodontist from South Florida named Charlie Adelson, who just so happened to be Wendy Adelson's brother. Now, Luis Rivera, Sigfredo Garcia, Katherine Magbanua, and Charlie Adelson have all been convicted for their roles in the murder-for-hire plot. But prosecutors say they're not alone. The matriarch of the Adelson family, Donna, was arrested while trying to board a one-way flight to Vietnam, and now she's set to stand trial for her role in the murder of Dan Markel. Donna Adelson is currently being held at the Leon County Detention Center in Florida while she awaits trial. It's the same Leon County facility where her alleged co-conspirator, Katherine Magbanua, spent years behind bars before she was sentenced to prison time in Ocala. But they weren't there at the same time. And now Donna Adelson is claiming that two of her fellow jail inmates shared conversations that they had with Katherine Magbanua while she was in the custody of Leon County. At a recent hearing, Donna Adelson testified virtually, telling the court Magbanua told these two inmates she had set up the Adelson family. Here's a piece of what Donna told the judge she heard Katherine said to these inmates.
She said, wait till I come back. I'm going to take care of that family. Wait till they see what they're going to get, and I'm going to get a reduced sentence. Stayed ahead of her plan, worked. She would not be where she is. She would be sitting pretty in Hawaii, drinking a fancy drink. That was one of her statements. Kay made it very clear that she was blackmailing Charlie, my son.
So these new details with Donna Adelson sharing that she's got some proof that she was being set up, and not only that, her son, who was convicted of this, that he was being set up as well. So that brings us to our first question of our investigation tonight. Did Katherine Magbanua actually set the Adelsons up? And we have a team of people to break this down for us. Let's bring in our guests. We have Scripps News Tallahassee reporter Kendall Brandt is with us, and the host of Surviving the Survivor podcast and the author of a book by the same title about his mother, a child Holocaust survivor. Joel Waldman is with us. Thank you both for joining us. Kendall, let me start with you. You've been covering this case from inside of that Leon County courthouse for a long time. Tell me more about what Donna Adelson says about this setup.
So it's very similar, or seems to mimic, what Charlie said during his trial, or rather the argument that his attorney made, that Katherine Magbanua, along with the two hitmen, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, they all conspired to frame Charlie and his mother Donna and their family for the murder of Dan Markel. Now, they claim that Magbanua, as well as the two hitmen, knew that they had this problem with a custody battle, that they could go kill Markel and threaten the Adelson family for money, and threaten to frame them for the murder. That was Charlie's, pretty much his entire defense. Now, it kind of seems like, based on this last hearing, that Donna is setting up something similar, saying that these two inmates had time with Katherine in jail and spoke with her, and that's what she told them.
Joel Waldman, you have been following this case every step of the way, and now we're hearing this from Donna Adelson. These inmates, are you surprised that she's the one coming forward and sharing this with the court?
Yeah, this took everyone by surprise. So Donna Adelson wasn't even supposed to appear in court, but she shows up via Zoom and then offers testimony. And Joy, I know you've been covering this as well. It just took everyone aback. So she comes out, and you just heard a little bit of a soundbite, basically pointing the finger at Katherine Magbanua, saying she got the information from 2 inmates who are still serving time who had spoken to Katherine Magbanua, and the details of who these inmates are or where they are at this current time. None of that was specified. Later in that hearing, Judge Everett, who's just a consummate professional, literally told Donna Adelson to please stop talking. Like, she was just droning on and on. But to Kendall's point, it sounds like she was trying to make an argument that would fit the narrative that they presented at Charlie's trial about extortion.
Yeah, Kendall, did they share any details about these inmates? Did we know anything about their past, when Donna Adelson may have heard these statements from them, and what's going to happen with them going forward?
Well, the reason why we had that surprise hearing is because Donna's defense team made a motion to perpetuate testimony from those 2 inmates, claiming that they had prior drug use and they had told Donna that they had intended on using drugs again. So her team had argued that these 2 folks weren't necessarily competent, or they weren't going to be available for the trial. That's why they needed to perpetuate that testimony now. Judge Everett ended up denying that motion, and he sided with the state. But that was the whole reason why that hearing was called so urgently, is because her defense team claims that these 2 people had that prior drug use and may not be able to show up for her trial in June.
Yeah, her June trial just around the corner. Joel, do you think that this is something that will delay the trial, or is this an indication that this is where the defense is going? This is what we're going to see during the trial when the arguments are made on behalf of Donna Adelson?
Yeah, you know, as my producer, Steve Cohen, on my show always says, point the thumb, not the finger, and the thumb right now is should be pointed in Donna Adelson's direction. I don't think there's any chance that the trial gets delayed because of this. Not only did Judge Everett scold Donna Adelson, and a lot of people think she's just going to do herself in because she likes to talk so much, but he also reprimanded Josh Zellman, the defense attorney, saying, hey, you filed this motion, none of this was in here, I'm blindsided by this. And then kind of with his tail between his legs, he responded by saying, look, I didn't really want to tip the media off to this. I didn't want to make it a big deal. I didn't want to possibly influence a jury panel. But yet Donna comes out and speaks about it in open court. So it's a head scratcher. And I talked to some criminal defense attorneys in Tallahassee who think that Judge Everett is definitely irked by this. We know what happened with Dan Rashbaum, and he has no tolerance for this any longer.
Kendall Brandt, did the judge say what's going to happen with this deposition? Is he for it, against it, or is going to take it under advisement?
So he denied that motion to perpetuate the testimony. He said that their prior drug use wasn't a necessary indicator that these 2 folks couldn't come to trial and testify and talk about what they had heard supposedly from Katherine Magbanua while they were in jail with her. So I spoke with a criminal defense attorney that told me that they might still possibly forward these folks and get their information on the record for themselves, but the judge denied that order.
All right, Kendall Brandt, thank you so much for joining us. Joel Waldman is going to stick around because we have a lot more questions we want to answer. The next one is, could these inmates have communicated with Katie?
I see that you're in jail clothes. Are you currently in custody?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you in custody for?
For murder.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Cementelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cementelli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The Celebrity Stylist Murder Trial. Weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
4 certain.
see that you're in jail clothes. Are you currently in custody?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you in custody for?
Murder.
Are you doing a sentence for murder?
Yes, ma'am.
You were convicted of murder?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the murder of Dan Markel?
Yes, ma'am.
Katherine Magbanua is currently serving her life sentence at the Lowell Correction Institution in Ocala, Florida. But before her retrial, she was held at the Leon County Jail. After being moved from Ocala, she then returned to the Leon County Jail at least twice. This was once to testify in the trial of her ex-boyfriend, Charlie Adelson, and then again last September for what would have been the trial of Charlie's mother, Donna. That trial date would be pushed to a later date in June. But according to Donna Adelson, it's during one of those times at the Leon County Jail, Katherine Magbanua allegedly told other inmates that she set up the Adelsons. So that leads us to our next question, digging into this issue of Katherine Magbanua and did she talk to these two women? Our question is it possible? Could these inmates have communicated with Katie Magbanua? Let's bring back in our guest who is standing by. Joining us now is director and founder of Wall Street Prison Consultants and the author of a new book, Prison Politics 101. And still with us, host of the Surviving the Survivor podcast, Joel Wadman. Joel, let me start with you because we got a lot of information in that hearing about these two inmates, about when or where this may have happened. But what are your thoughts in terms of when Katherine may have talked to these inmates?
Well, I think you're right, Julia. I think if it happened when Katie Magbanua was in the Leon County Courthouse. That's the only thing that really makes sense, unless word would travel from state prison where Katie is serving her life sentence. It's possible. Obviously, Larry, who I love, is going to have a lot more insight on that. But, this story is either somewhat, maybe a tiny bit factually correct, which I don't think, or it is just made up completely out of whole cloth. I believe it is the latter. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. Tara Kawas was Katie's attorney. We reached out to her on our show for comment. She was away, never got a response, but we're going to try to, speak to her again. But this story is just not holding water, in my opinion, because it makes Charlie's defense and her future defense come together perfectly, and that's exactly what she wants.
Yeah, Larry, let's talk about that, because this is an unusual situation for the court. You've got attorneys wanting to depose inmates and figure out whether these inmates would have talked to Katherine Magbanua. What does that look like when one inmate has a story that clears them and they share that with, who would they share that with?
Well, it's stupid because it sets you up to be a rat or an informant. I find it highly unlikely that she would have said that, but this does happen. And there's a lot of ways she could have communicated with him. I mean, as my friend Joel said, it could have happened in the courthouse, but then on the other hand, it could have happened in the jail as well. They bring inmates into what's called R&D, receiving and discharge, where inmates are chained up, sitting in a bench, not really next to each other, but near each other. And then inmates, let's say they're in housing units, they're in a cell somewhere. They can communicate through the air vents. They can communicate through the toilets. I'm not joking. They empty the water out. They talk right into the toilet bowl and the sound goes through. I mean, in the feds, it's called a 5K1. Where you're getting the benefit of cooperation. But I don't really see that if she did this, because she is going back to state prison, and she knows that she would implicate herself. I don't really see that. And these other two inmates, there's no real reason to depose them now, because they could file a habeas corpus later on them and just bring them back to court to testify. And if they don't testify, or they refuse to, it becomes contempt of court, possibly obstruction of justice, and they can pick up new charges. So they really need to let this play out.
I want to follow up with you, Larry, because you said something at the beginning that usually you would not be talking if you're an inmate. You wouldn't be sharing things, either talking about what someone else told you, or if you're Katherine Magbanua, sharing what you did with other people. But do you think it's possible that Katherine Magbanua, if she said this, that she could have been trying to explain away or lying about why she was there, perhaps to testify against Charlie Adelson or Donna Adelson?
She could have been there for any real reason. I mean, I've seen inmates being pulled back to court from prison, and they do this to testify. They get themselves a sentence reduction. They're under investigation. They're cooperating. They're talking to investigators, you know, and then they show back up. She's going to show back up in prison eventually with a lower sentence possibly, and the inmates are going to wonder why. And she's going to be under scrutiny by everybody essentially forever. No one's going to trust her. And something like this will filter through the prison system the rest of her stay there. Nobody's going to trust this woman at all. So she's going to have a rough ride of it. And if it turns out she is a rat or a snitch, her life itself may be in danger. They may have to put her in the SHU or the special housing unit. And, you know, inmates they're worse than old women, as they say. Inmates love to gossip. I spent as...
All right, I think we lost Larry, but thank you to Larry Levine for being with us. Joel Waldman is staying with us because we have a lot more to talk about. Here's what's coming up next. Does Donna's claim match up with her son Charlie's testimony? Welcome to Vinnie Politan Investigates. I'm Julia Janae, filling in for Vinnie Politan, and we continue our investigation into the murder for hire of Dan Markel. The hitman in the case has confessed. 3 others have been convicted, and now the former mother-in-law of Dan Markel is charged with pulling all of the strings in the case. Here's the story. FSU law professor Dan Markel was in the middle of a custody battle with his ex, Wendy Adelson. That battle ended when Dan was murdered by 2 hitmen in his own driveway. That was 10 years ago. Since then, investigators have uncovered a murder for hire plot that involved 4 people, the 2 hitmen and the hitman's girlfriend and Wendy Adelson's brother, Charlie. They have all been convicted, and now prosecutors say a 5th person was involved, Wendy's mother, Donna, who is now behind bars awaiting trial. Charlie Adelson was found guilty at trial for his involvement in the murder of his former brother-in-law, Dan Markel. But during his case, Charlie told the jury that he had been extorted by his ex-girlfriend, Katherine Magbanua, and her ex-boyfriend and another man, that they killed Dan Markel on their own. And this was the first time that he had mentioned it to anyone in the public. Let's listen to Charlie explain it in his own words.
Did you cause the death of Professor Dan Markel?
Absolutely no.
Did you hire anyone to kill him?
No.
Do you recall making a joke that buying her a TV was cheaper than hiring a hitman? Something to that effect.
Yeah, it was, want me to say what?
Yeah, tell me what the joke was.
What happened was that when I gave her the TV set as a divorce present, the stupidest thing I ever said in my life. And I said, you know, I was going to get you a hitman, but the TV set was a lot cheaper, so I went with the TV set instead. And I said it as a complete joke, and it was stupid.
Did you ever become aware of efforts by your family, including yourself,
yes,
to offer Professor Markel money to allow your sister to relocate?
I did, yes.
And do you recall who came up with that idea?
It was my parents.
What were the terms of the offer? How much was it for?
The offer was for $1 million.
Do you ever talk with Katherine Magbanua? And we'll talk a lot about her in a little bit, but did you ever talk with Katherine Magbanua about that $1 million offer?
Yes, I did.
And what do you remember telling her?
The same thing I told everybody else. It came up when she was asking me about, you know, does your sister want to move back home? And I said, yeah. I said, we tried everything we could. We even offered Danny $1 million to move back to South Florida.
That day, now we're on the 18th, July 18th. Did you speak with your sister that morning?
I did.
What do you recall talking to your sister about?
I called her in the car on the way up to work, and I ended up talking to her. She's told me that she was having the TV set repaired. I thought she had told me that Lincoln had thrown something at it that broke the screen. So she was getting a TV fix.
At some point in time, you hear from your mom. How do you hear from your mom?
I had a missed call from her, 1 or 2 missed calls, and then she texted me, call us ASAP. And she told me that Wendy had just called her and that Dan had been shot and that it was serious and that her and my dad are going to be going up to Tallahassee to be with her.
Did you speak with Katherine Magbanua?
Yes, I did.
And what did you tell Katherine Magbanua on your ride home?
I told her that my brother-in-law, my ex-brother-in-law had been shot and it's serious. And I just told her I really didn't feel like going out tonight and just hang out at the house if you still want to come over. She said, no, I'm still coming to see you.
What happened when she arrived?
When she arrived to my house, she came in through the garage, entered into the kitchen from the side door like she always does. And she just looked panicked and upset. And she walked straight in and gives me this big, tight hug and asked me, like, are you okay? And I said, yeah, this is a horrible day. But she looked more upset than I've ever seen her. I'm like, are you okay? She's like, no, I'm not. What's wrong? She said, just come sit down. I need to talk to you.
Where did you go?
We walked into the living room.
And what happened when you got to the living room?
We sat down on the couch, and she started to talk to me. She said, listen, this is all my fault. But I had no idea anything was going to happen, but this is totally my fault. I spoke in too much detail about your family's personal problems, about your sister, Dan Markel, and the $1 million offer.
What did you say?
I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, my friend killed Dan. He wants to be paid $1/3 of $1 million. And I'm like, Katie, I'm not going to be part of it. Like, I'm not going to be part of paying for a murder. This is insane. And she's like, look, if you don't pay in 48 hours, they will kill you.
This testimony is 9 years after the death of Dan Markel. And 2 of those years, this case was cold. It was an unsolved case. So now, with Donna alleging that Katherine Magbanua bragged to jail inmates about setting the Adelsons up, we have to ask this question. Does Donna's claim match up with Charlie's testimony? Testimony that had not been heard of until 2023. Here with us to discuss, we have former Deputy Public Defender for Los Angeles County, Philip Dubé, and the host of Surviving the Survivor podcast and author of a book by the same title about his mother, a child Holocaust survivor. Joel Waldman is with us. Thank you both for breaking this case down. Philip, let me start with you. It matches up, it seems. What do you think about this new evidence from Donna Adelson and claim that she's got 2 inmates who say that Katherine Magbanua admitted that she set up the Adelsons?
I think there's some merit to it, frankly. And the only reason why I feel that way is because it's been reported that not only did these 2 female inmates convey this information to Donna, but then Donna got a private investigator that was previously, I believe, in her son's case, in on it and had him go interview these inmates. And it's my understanding that these inmates reiterated whatever they said to Donna to the investigator. So you have corroborating evidence that it's been said at least twice to Donna and to the investigators. And I'm not going to say it was wrong for the judge not to have allowed the conditional exam or the deposition of these 2 women, but I will say that that the testimony is highly relevant. The only thing that really matters is what value a jury would put on it. I mean, frankly, in the end, it sounds like a Hail Mary, but nonetheless, if it's her defense that Katherine Magbanua has fabricated the whole thing, she should not be deprived of the opportunity to present that. And her investigator is likely a very credible, experienced, tenured veteran kind of PI, if you will, and will take the stand, and I'm sure he's probably done it before, and tell the jury under oath that this is what these two women said. And without that kernel, if you will, of evidence, it's very possible that Donna could get convicted, and it could be grounds for appeal if convicted, because if they don't secure the presence of those two women by virtue of the court denying the motion for the deposition, she could be denied possible defense.
Joel, these two inmates behind bars, the temporary investigator that Philip mentioned has talked to them as well. But this has been 10 years since Dan Markel's death. Are we to believe that in the 10 years, it's only been in the last 2 that anyone has mentioned blackmail? Because there were jailhouse informants on the witness list that weren't called in the prior trials that happened in this case.
Yeah, by the way, the next court hearing, the judge is going to hear about this private investigator and whether or not his testimony will be allowed in. He comes off the heels of the previous criminal defense attorney, Dan Rashbaum, and this judge does not want any conflict, so the new lawyers might have to go out and get a new investigator. But Julia, I think it's really important to point out that Donna Adelson is a master manipulator. This is known to be factually correct. A lot of people think she was sort of the brains behind this murder for hire plot. I'll take a slightly contrarian point of view to Philip. This to me, if I'm a juror and I'm up to speed on the case, everything kind of fits into into Charlie's defense, and just moving forward. These details that she provides now, like you said, basically 10 years after the fact. I mean, at one point she says that the inmates tell her that Sigfredo Garcia, who's in a state prison far away, so I don't know how these inmates would know this unless, the news is traveling through the prison and jail system, but he apparently has a tattoo of Katie Magbanua with a machine gun. And the reason I bring that up is Charlie, all those years after the crime that he's convicted for, he was so detail-oriented, and a lot of people feel that that was kind of his death knell, that he was just too smooth on the stand. And here, Donna is providing these very meticulous details from these alleged 2 inmates. I'm not saying that maybe they didn't talk, but I think to the extent that she is making it seem like they revealed information, it is, like Philip, I think, said, a bit of a Hail Mary.
Let's listen back to more of that testimony, because that was big inside of the courtroom. Here's what Donna said at that hearing about the inmates and what they told her that Katherine Magbanua told them.
She said, wait till I come back. I'm going to take care of that family. Wait till they see what they're going to get, and I'm going to get a reduced sentence. Stay had her plan, worked. She would not be where she is. She would be sitting pretty in Hawaii, drinking a fancy drink. That was one of her statements. Kay made it very clear that she was blackmailing Charlie, my son.
Now, Philip, I know you say that this evidence should come in, these inmates should come in, but I'm trying to understand why it would benefit Katherine Magbanua to not say during her first 2 trials that she was, that the Adelsons were involved. If she really wanted to set them up, why didn't she go all the way and take the plea deal that was on the table when she had a retrial in 2022?
Well, it sounds like her counsel probably told her not to take the deal, that they're never going to be able to prove it, and that there was reasonable doubt. And she probably thought that as presented, there just was not enough evidence, and that her testimony would raise enough doubt for the jury to cut her loose. And she did hang it the first time, and that probably emboldened her to keep going forward with her version of events. The problem that Katherine has is, remember, in the first go-around, she denied everything. And then in the second trial, she, of course, backpedaled, if you will, and then changed her story. And of course, they get a conviction as against Charlie. If she comes in now, she's going to have to explain away every version that she's given. And that's why I think it's critical that if this story about these 2 inmates is to be believed, that the defense be allowed to bring them in. Now, whether or not they should be deposed is another type of legal analysis, but I'm not sure that the court should just shut down the testimony, because to be fair, she is going to be a critical, pivotal witness against Donna, and there should be some avenue of impeachment for Donna. And to just shut it down, I think really could be reversible error.
And Joel, these two inmates, according to what came out in the hearing, it seems like the defense is desperate. They are worried that these two people, once they are let out from jail, so they're not serving a very long sentence, that they will return to being homeless, they will return to drug abuse, and it will make them incompetent to actually talk to and give a fair deposition.
Yeah, that's exactly the argument the defense made. However, Georgia Kaplan, the prosecutor on this case, and incidentally, not so incidentally, was just named Prosecutor of the Year in the state of Florida. So she is great at what she does. She said, look, a lot of former inmates or people who are going to, give witness testimony like this are not going to be around. It's still not reason at this moment to compel testimony. The judge made it abundantly clear that if he hears more and comes to a decision, it will happen down the road. But I just want to add, keep in mind, there are details that have come out that Donna shows up at Charlie's house with a boatload of money that's stapled to give to Charlie. And Katie sleeps over that night. Not very typical of blackmail. Again, I feel like Donna's trying to squeeze a round peg into a square hole, or the other way around, I guess makes more sense. It is just not adding up, in my opinion. And again, Donna likes to talk, and Donna likes to manipulate and control situations. And that, by the way, is precisely why Judge Everett told her to stop talking.
Likes to talk, yeah, he told her, and it seemed that she was not respecting the court at that point when she was trying to get what she had to say out. Our guests are going to stay with us. We still have a lot to talk to because Philip mentioned this. Katie Magbanua changed her story. Let's talk about when and why.
Let's do this. Will you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. All right.
She thinks I'm going to kill her, and then I want to kill her.
Do you? A troubled teen who fatally shot his own father
now stands accused for the murder of his mother.
I'm not a psychopath. I'm not this murderer.
Was it an argument that led to a tragic accident?
Or a fit of rage that ended in cold-blooded murder.
Everybody that's special to him in his life is dead. The Deadly Son murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
Did you have anything to do with the murder of Dan Markel?
No, ma'am.
Did you get the father of your children, Mr. Garcia, to commit a murder on behalf of Mr. Charlie Adelson?
No, ma'am.
Based on everything you've seen, do you think Charlie was involved in this?
Yes.
Do you think Charlie was lying to you?
Yes.
That was Katherine Magbanua at her first trial in 2019. In that testimony, she said she had nothing to do with Dan Markel's murder, but that she suspected Charlie was involved. In that case, the jury convicted her boyfriend, Sigfredo Garcia, but they couldn't agree on Magbanua's charges, and her case ended in a mistrial. Then Magbanua was tried again in 2022, and she took the stand for a second time, and here's what she said.
To this day, do you think he's guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that he should be prosecuted for his involvement in the murder of Dan Markel?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you think he should come forward and let the jury know that you had nothing to do with this?
Yes, ma'am.
The jury in that case found her guilty of murder and conspiracy, and she was sentenced in Florida to life in prison without parole. And she then was called to testify for a third time, this time for the prosecution of Charlie Adelson. And that's when her story started to change.
When you testified, were you truthful with the jury?
No, ma'am, I was not.
Did you take the same oath that you just took today in your own trial?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your defense when you were tried?
That I had nothing to do with it.
All right, that we got it right in reference to Charlie Adelson and we got it right in reference to the killers,
yes,
but you
ma'am.
weren't in the middle.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that true?
No, ma'am, it was not.
Were you in the middle?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Who came up with the idea to kill Dan Markel?
Charlie.
And that time the jury believed her and convicted Charlie Adelson. So that brings us to the question that we are all wondering. There it is. When did Katherine Magbanua change her story? When exactly did it happen, and did it help things? Still with us, Philip Dubé and Joel Waldman. And we want to go to this sound, which is from when she's already been convicted and her retrial has already happened, but before she testified at Charlie Adelson's trial. It's a proffer that she gave for prosecutors to understand what her testimony would be at her ex-boyfriend's trial. Take a listen.
What led to the two of them making that trip to Tallahassee?
Okay, so when I was, this is like the hard part because that's the part that I've never spoken of. And from what I just remember, I don't know the specific day, but I do know that Charlie had given a paper in an envelope, but he stuck it inside, like, I had like a diaper bag that I used to use for Kaylee, but I kind of used that as like a weekender bag, and he put it in there. He's probably been talking about like, oh, you know, like I need somebody to, you know, get beat up or whatever. That's why I'm saying, like, from him, something happening to her husband to like obviously murder, that's like two different extremes. And
so you're saying leading up to him putting that in the diaper bag, he was talking about wanting to find somebody to beat him up?
Like he's, you know, little by little, I think he was feeding stuff in my head that he needed this to be done. For the whole time, it's like I felt as if Charlie kept planting this seed in my head. Obviously, now I don't know if like he knew of Sigfredo, like he probably knew of Sigfredo from what, you know, like me venting and saying like, you know, like he's giving me a hard time. Like then when I'm with Sigfredo, I'm like relaying stuff to him, but them really not knowing, you know, like obviously even with conversations, it's like I never said like, oh, I'm talking to Tuto, or like with him, he doesn't want to hear that I'm talking with Charlie.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like they both know who I'm talking about.
What did he say to you, basically, just in general?
That he needs somebody to get hurt, but like not to get to that point. From my understanding, was not to get killed, but to maybe like, I don't know, if like rough up or beat up or whatever.
So Charlie's giving you something and you're giving Garcia something. What is it?
What's the agreement? What was Charlie going to do?
Yeah, like something needed to be taken care of for him.
And what was that?
For Dan Markel.
Okay. And what was Charlie getting in return? Was he doing anything in return? What was he willing to do?
Well, yeah, like he would have, like the money wise, obviously, like, you know, like they would be, like Charlie's like, oh, they're going to be taken care of.
Joel Waldman, she's there explaining to prosecutors when it happened, or to investigators that are interviewing her. But what did we learn about whether or not there was one moment where Charlie Adelson said, hey, I need to hire a hitman, or was it more drawn out than that?
Well, obviously, Katie's making the point that it was, you know, drip, drip, drip. And I have to say, this is a very unpopular take, but there's a part of me that feels for Katie Magbanua. I don't feel like in her blood she's necessarily a murderer, but she surrounded herself by murderers and is now paying the consequences. But like you said, in 2019 and 2022 at both her trials, I had nothing to do with this. I wasn't involved. Georgia and the state get her to flip in 2023 at Charlie Adelson's trial. And now suddenly she is saying, look, Charlie Adelson is the mastermind. Did she change stories? Does that hurt her credibility? Yes, but it's different juries. And it seems that they really believed her. You know, Luis Rivera has been very sort of straightforward, and people say he might be the most credible witness here. I felt that in this trial, and I was there, that Katie was being sincere about all this. So, you know, Charlie was manipulating her. I have no doubt. Did she get drawn in? Yes. Is she paying the consequences? Yes. Did she flip on him? It happens all the time.
Philip, there's nothing on the record right now that says that Katie Magbanua is going to get any kind of a reduction in that life in prison without parole for her testimony against Charlie that she's already done and the future testimony against Donna. But prosecutors have had to contend with the fact that under cross, she says, you know, I hope that they will give me some kind of a reduction, but I don't know. Do prosecutors need her with all these problems with potentially these inmates testifying against her? Do they still need her to prosecute Donna Adelson?
No, they don't. I think once they get the bump in, the infamous bump, and they get all those recordings in, I think Donna is done, frankly. Now, if they actually get Katherine to come in and kind of flip-flop, if you will, and repeat what she testified to at Charlie's trial, then it really could be icing on the cake for the state's case. But I got to tell you, she had a rather cavalier attitude when she's sitting there taking her oath. You notice? I mean, taking an oath with your hand on the Bible is a far cry from putting your hand on your chest to say the Pledge of Allegiance. It's almost as if the oath had no meaning to her, like it does in a court of law. But nonetheless, the jury believed her during Charlie's trial, and I think the reason why is that her testimony was buttressed by other compelling evidence. And if anything, she really corroborated everything else that the state had. Not to mention, Charlie did himself no favors on the stand. I mean, he was a real sort of cocky, self-righteous, arrogant witness against himself in the end. And I think the jury just didn't believe him.
So, Joel, when you're watching her testify, and we know that she's changed her story multiple times, and now we have these inmates questioning her credibility, what evidence is there that she didn't set up the Adelsons, like allegedly, reportedly, according to Donna Adelson, that these inmates say that she was setting them up the whole time and they didn't know about it? Is there anything out there that refutes that?
Well, it's interesting, and the new evidence, the full load of it is still yet to be seen. But there have been reports that there's a text message out there between the Adelsons, Charlie and Donna, talking about Dan's hit being a drug deal going bad, almost like they're setting up an alibi. And then you just heard Philip talking about the infamous bump. I've talked extensively with the bump man, as I call him. And when you watch that video, you do realize that Donna is fearful, that she's hiding something. And I don't think it's the fact that it's, a guy, an FBI agent undercover playing a tough guy. I think she fears that they're onto them. And then when she and Charlie talk later, the quote is, "It's about the two of us." Sounds like a guilty person talking to me. So there is certainly circumstantial evidence out there, direct evidence. I don't know how much of that, but she's got an uphill battle, Donna does.
So many twists and turns in this case, but thank you to Philip Dubé and Joel Waldman for breaking it down for us. We are going to get to a break, but Donna Adelson, like any other defendant, she deserves a defense and her day in court. And we want to bring the focus, though, back to the victim, Dan Markel. It's been 10 years since he was gunned down for wanting to be an involved father. And because of the complicated way that this murder was carried out, the Markel family has had to endure a decade of arrests and trials and verdicts, hearings that they've had to come across the country, from Canada to Florida, to bear witness to this tragedy over and over again. Their patience and their resolve to let justice and the justice system work and play out, to trust the prosecution, it really is one of the best examples of justice delayed not being justice denied. We'll keep digging for answers. You're watching Vinnie Politan Investigates. I'm Julia Janae, filling in for Vinnie Politan. Thank you for being with us.